It's gotten out of hand. People getting hurt now. So I was thinking, what if we just walk away?
Well, now you're starting to talk.
And I was like, nah.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to this spoiler review for Rebel Ridge, this brand new film that is out on Netflix now, starring Aaron Pierre as the lead character in this one, Terry Richmond, who has to fight local corruption in this small town led by the police chief here, Don Johnson, in order to save his cousin as he tries to overcome the local corruption that is going on. It's a film that deals with civil forfeiture, which is a big deal that has started to come up. NPR, other places have covered it and spoken about it. Other websites have talked about it. It's a legitimate thing going on in our country and other places. And it's a fascinating film that is equal parts First Blood and Reacher, and other parts actual commentary, social commentary on what's going on, not only with black men being arrested, but also what goes on with certain police forces and the corruption that envelops them, because they have a personal point of view of what they need to do in order to survive and exist. So it's a film that is not necessarily one of those films that is just like, let's go revenge, let's beat some people up, let's beat the police up, and let's have a hero by the end of the day. It's a film that actually challenges you, written and directed and edited by Jeremy Saulnier, who I think did a wonderful job with this film. I found myself very engrossed with what he did as a director. And this is one that I'm highly, highly recommending because of the directorial work and the story that's being told here. Now, this is a spoiler review, so I'm going to hit some of these points here within the film itself that maybe some of you who haven't seen it might want to wait and enjoy when you see the film. So if you haven't seen the film, I'm telling you right now, go and watch it, come back and hang out with us here for this spoiler review. So the story itself, I thought, was fantastic. From the opening beats here, where you get Aaron Pierre, Terry Richmond, get knocked off his bike, and you see the investigation going on with these two police officers, David Denman, who's an actor you've seen in a number of things, and Emery Cohen, who's playing Officer Steve Lavin, Denman playing Evan, and Emery Cohen playing Steve. Those two become the main kind of point officers this side of Don Johnson that you know of, until we get to Jess, who's at the office, and we'll get to her in just a second. But from the opening bell, you get this feeling like, okay, this is going to be clearly racist white cops in a southern town going after a black man. And this is a really interesting opening to the movie, because in your mind, like, okay, so we're going to find out this guy's clearly a badass, the way he holds himself, that he's in incredible muscular shape, and he's confident around these cops. He's respectful. He's saying the things that he's supposed to say, but then they take his money. And from there, that's where everything pops off. And you find out that this guy is connected to a gentleman named Mr. Lou, who is clearly has some kind of information here behind the scenes. And so what is his role in all of this kind of remains a mystery, except that he backs up Terry Richmond when stuff starts to go down here. So an interesting bit of mystery of Mr. Lou, but we find out that Terry has access to this money. This money is taken from him. And then the next, he tries to figure out what to do with this thing. And then we bring in AnnaSophia Robb. I think she does a wonderful job. Good Southern accent, interesting approach to this. Clearly, she's got her own issues. We find out she's got drug addiction issues from the past. We find out that she's close to becoming a lawyer and that she has a child. And that so she comes in to help Terry in a way after overhearing what's going on with Terry and his cousin and the bail and all of this stuff and civil forfeiture. She's the one that starts to kind of launch the investigation that goes back to a case from a few years ago where a lawsuit was put forward, and the person who put forward the lawsuit because of violent behavior and detainment won, and then was able to essentially almost bankrupt the town and get the police force kicked out possibly, until Don Johnson took it upon himself to go and get and implement this civil forfeiture situation in order to solidify themselves as a police force, but also to make payroll, to put back into the community. So this very interesting film that challenges you. This one goes much deeper and tackles an issue that's going on in our world. And I kind of liked that about the story. Let's get into some of the performances here. Aaron Pierre, as I said earlier, just a fantastic actor to lead this thing. He's a British actor, and I thought he held himself incredibly well as this American Marine who clearly has had experience in certain ways in the force. But you find out, of course, as a force, but you find out he's got this martial arts training and he hasn't had that many fights, but he knows what to do and he keeps his head. And the slow build with him, I think, is a great example of his acting. He's quiet, but he slowly builds into these moments. He has emotional bursts that come through, like when he's doing the fist bump with Mike, who's his cousin in the bus as it's going to prison. The anger within himself in those moments when he rips the wall out of Don Johnson's police headquarters. There's a scream that he lets out, and then the exchanges with AnnaSophia Robb, and then even the exchanges with the judge when James Cromwell finally gives the information that they've been looking for about what's going on with the corruption in the town. There's some real honest authenticity coming through in his performance, along with the quiet badassery rolling through. And I thought some of the fight sequences were really well done. This is an actor that we have not heard the last of, and we are going to be enjoying in years to come if the right people get involved and know how to use him and cast him in the right roles. This is a breakout role, and I think we're going to hear a lot from him going forward. I think Don Johnson was fantastic in this movie. Here as Chief Sandy Byrne, he brings a real menace to the proceedings, and so he's a worthy foe for Terry Richmond. The back and forth between them and the twists and turns, like when he's letting him go after he has confronted his officers and worked out this deal for him and really shown that he's a formidable foe. When they take him to the hospital and tell him that his cousin's been stabbed to death, he has a chance to just take the money and roll. You kind of believe, okay, so this guy kind of understands when to cut his losses and when to move on. He was going to give the money back to Terry, the $26,000, and let it all be, and just don't come back here, right? But they had to take care of business to make sure that Summer didn't reveal all the stuff that was going on that Chief Byrne was doing here. So it's a very interesting performance from Don Johnson. And he's I mean, this is an actor that doesn't get a chance to show what he can do. Remember, you guys might remember my interviewing him and asking him that awkward question about his daughter, but he's a guy that I thoroughly enjoy talking to. And so I'm always in the corner of Don Johnson, obviously from Miami Vice on. So when he gets a chance to really sink his actor's teeth into a role, it's so much fun to see him bring it to life. And he does a wonderful job here. I already mentioned David Denman as Officer Evan Marston. You know, he's got certain spots in the movie, certainly the opening there. He's an intimidating guy, David Denman. You know, you guys remember him from The Office and numerous other films and TV shows. So he's got a nice presence to him. I saw him once do Shakespeare in Orange County. Really fantastic actor. And he brings it to bear here. And when the twist happens later that he's actually Serpico, it's believable, even though at the beginning he's so brutal and hard against Terry. You understand that there's a stronger connection here he has to the truth, and he's maybe working on the inside, but having to do the things that he has to do in order to keep the job, but waiting for the moment to turn on Chief Sandy Byrne. And certainly I like seeing that from him. But Emery Cohen here as Steve, this is a guy that brings a lot of ferocity and menace to this role. Some of you may remember him from a number of roles he did in the past. He was in The Place Beyond the Pines. He was recently in The Bike Riders, which I have still to see. And seeing him here as this racist, slightly stupid guy who's very angry, gives into his emotions, wants to kill Terry Richmond when they're having the big standoff at the end, I think he did a great job really bringing to life. As someone who grew up in the South, I've known these motherfuckers in high school, and I've known these motherfuckers when they become cops. So for me, I bought into the authenticity of what he is playing out, which is clearly a frustrated guy who peaked in high school and became this police officer and was more than willing to be part of the corruption that's going on here, led by Chief Sandy Byrne. So I thought he did a fantastic job. And I'd be remiss not to speak about Jess, who I think is fantastic in the film here as well, played by Jean Jay. She is such an essential part of the movie. She brings this interesting character because you think initially that she's on Terry's side because she's a black woman, he's a black man, he's being hard done. She certainly knows what happens to black people at the hands of the police force, but she's a member of the police force. So when you initially think, or the film makes you think that she might be the person who's giving away all the stuff, you're on board with it. But when she makes the turn and surrenders the hard drives, it is so believable, so well done. And then when she turns again to be to essentially incapacitate the chief at the end there, you buy it because of the things that have gone on. And there's exchanges between Aaron Pierre and her that you can see that this is a exchange between two people of the black race who understand the corruption and the violence that have sometimes been visited upon members of their race through the police force, through corrupt or a racist police force. So there's these little mini exchanges that you can catch in their faces that are nonverbal, that they understand the scope of what's going on culturally as well as humanly, what's going on between them. So I thought that was fantastic as well to see here in the movie. The action sequences, I think, are good, but I will say this. The fascinating part about this movie is that there is no death. There is a lot of fighting. There is some certainly Steve gets his ass completely whooped by Terry before he rolls off of that car. And so there are moments of violence, there are moments of fights, there are moments of brutality, people getting shot and what have you, but there's not him like taking out everybody and killing people. There is that last battle sequence with all the tear gas and the fighting through all of that, but there isn't necessarily what you have come to expect from something like First Blood or what have you, or Rambo. I mean, he's not taking out an entire police force. And I thought that was very gutsy from Jeremy Saulnier, because he was certainly, this is a fantastical approach to this kind of issue, civil forfeiture and racism within the police force towards a young black man, but he does not indulge in the fantasy of killing the police. It is a much more complex film in its approach, because you can kind of understand why the chief does the things that he does, even though you may not like why he did it. You can understand why he did it. Steve, a little bit less so, he is, but like, you've got enough people in David Demon and AnnaSophia Robb's character who actually understand, and Zhang Zhe later, who do understand there's a corruption here that needs to be stopped. And of course, the judge, James Cromwell, who only gets like 2 or 3 scenes in the movie, he also understands what needs to be stopped here. So I thought overall that really worked, to see that there was enough people who were willing to work together with Terry, white people and black people together, to fight against this corruption that is going on in the town. So by the end, it's a very satisfying ending. The fight sequence, as I said, not as, I think they could have been more brutal, but I think that was on purpose. So Jeremy Saulnier walking that line between people who actually want to enact the kind of most brutal punishment on police, and the people who understand that police force that is necessary and that there are good people on the police. And so it isn't about blanket general characterizations. It's a much more complex approach to this. And that ending of the film, David Demon is the one who's revealed to be the one who's been giving the information to AnnaSophia Robb and telling him he's got to cut out the DVR, rather, I think is what he says. So we see Terry take that axe, cut it out, and pulls out the information, which is what they lost when Zhang Zhe's character, when Jess stomps on all the hard drives that would have had the video of his cousin and what happened to his cousin. You see him holding on to that information because that information is going to implicate Don Johnson's character, Chief Sandy Bird. So to me, really surprising ending as well. Just ends. We don't know who lives, who dies. We don't know what's next. We don't know if there's a happy ending where Terry and Summer are like maybe exploring a romance, or like going like, hey, that's I'm glad we lived through this and I'll look you up sometime. There's none of that. So I love that this film challenges you multiple times throughout the movie, shocks you as a viewer, and in the end satisfies you and makes you go like, well, maybe I did want too much of the bloodlust, and I like that I wasn't given that. So how do I assess this movie differently now? So I do appreciate that. Are there moments where it drags a little bit or becomes repetitive? Should it have been 2 hours and 11 minutes? Probably not. You could have cut about 5 to 8 minutes of the movie, but overall, I think it was extremely satisfying. I like this as a new approach to these kinds of stories and a different and unique approach. So shout out to Jeremy Saulnier, who wrote, directed, and edited this thing. You've made a fantastic film. Shout out to Aaron Pierre and AnnaSophia Robb, who have great chemistry in the film. Shout out to David Demon, Don Johnson, Emery Cohen, and Zhang Zhe, who bring some real authenticity and authentic life to the characters that they're playing throughout the movie. So I give this one 4 cowboy hats out of 5 cowboy hats. Honestly, I was super, super impressed by this movie and found this to be rocketing up my top 10 list, possibly on my top 10 list by the end of the year. If not, it's going to be close. So it was an utter surprise how much I enjoyed this movie, and I highly recommend it. So if you get a chance to see it, or if you watched it rather, let me know what you thought about it down in the comment section below. Let me know what you felt about the film overall. And did it satisfy you? Or did you feel there are certain things narratively that didn't work for you overall? Did you think certain things were a coincidence? Were you like kind of miffed about the fact that they were shooting at him as he was dragging David Denman's body around the car, but didn't get a chance to really put a bullet inside him? Did that feel kind of slightly unbelievable? Let me know. Or did you appreciate the way they handled this and walk that line between a corrupt police force and how you can make a corrupt police force pay without having to kill them? Did you enjoy that approach to the film? Let me know what you thought about all of it. And Jeremy Saulnier's writing and direction down in the comments section below. Thanks so much for watching this spoiler review. There'll be more reviews coming down the road for me. Until then, take care, and I'll talk to you next time with another brand new video here on the Outlaw Nation. Thanks so much for watching this video. Please make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe for more content from the Outlaw Nation.